Peters here with a preview of OPAL events for February 2009. Today is January 31st, 2009. It's a beautiful day here on the eastern slope of Monkey Mountain in Missouri. It's actually 65 degrees on January 31st. So here's what's coming up in February. Tomorrow, Sunday, February 1st, beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, noon Pacific, and 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The Flagler Museum, Henry Flagler Museum down in Palm Beach, Florida, is going to be kicking off their 24th annual Whitehall Lecture Series, which is sponsored by the National City Private Client Group and the Palm Beach Post. It's a 5-part series, always on Sunday afternoon, always at 3 Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain. You know the routine. And the first in this series is a talk by Todd Balfe on Major Taylor, the world's fastest human being. He's from the late 19th century, 1898, 1899, and he was the world's fastest human being on a bicycle. And bicycling was very big back then. It was a huge spectator sport. And so if you want to hear more about that, tomorrow afternoon is the place to be. All these events are online, they're free, and they're open to everybody worldwide. On Friday, February 6th, beginning at 2 Eastern, 1 Central, noon Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we're also going to kick off another series sponsored by the Illinois State Library called Digital Archive Search and Discovery. The first program is going to be presented by Alice Scott from the Illinois State Library on IDA, the Illinois Digital Archives, which is a meta-collection of digital collections. IDA provides access to primary source materials in Illinois libraries, archives, museums, historical societies, and other cultural institutions. So that's next Friday. On Sunday, February 8th, is the second in this series from the Flagler Museum on the sports legends of the Gilded Age. This one will be on the topic of boxing, beginning with bare knuckle boxing and going on to gloved boxing. John L. Sullivan, the world's first gloved heavyweight champion. His nickname was the Boston Strong Boy, and he was the world's first heavyweight champion when fighting was bare knuckle and was regulated under the brutal London prize ring rules. After a highly publicized 75-round bout in 1889 against Jake Kilrain, the sport sort of switched over to glove boxing and the Marquis of Queensberry rules. If you've ever seen the film The Quiet Man starring John Wayne, you'll remember the Marquis of Queensberry rules figures prominently in that film. So you want to learn more about boxing in the late 19th century, come in Sunday, February 8th, beginning at 3 Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, noon Pacific. On Wednesday, February 11th, beginning at 2 Eastern, 1 Central, noon Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we're going to have an audio description workshop that helps blind and low vision users enjoy digital images. So if you're interested in the technique of audio description, which is a narrative technique that makes visual images more accessible to blind and low vision people by producing audible written descriptions of nonverbal visual information, such as digital photographs, television programs, motion pictures, and live events. This workshop is open to everybody. We do ask that you register. If you go to the OPAL schedule at www.opal-online.org and go into the master schedule, you can see a link to get into the registration. We do ask you to register even though it's a free event. And this event, most OPAL events last only an hour, but this one's going to last 2.5 hours, we predict. On Friday, February 13th, 2 Eastern, 1 Central, noon Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we'll have the second in this series on the Digital Archive Search and Discovery series from the Illinois State Library. The topic on that date will be LincolnNet, the Abraham Lincoln Historical Digitization Project. This will be the day after the bicentennial celebration of Lincoln's birth. And the presentation will be made by Drew Van de Creek, who's the director of the LincolnNet project at Northern Illinois University. On Sunday, February 15th, 3 Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, noon Pacific, 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we're going to have a talk by Kate Murphy on Crazy 8, the world's greatest, the greatest year in baseball history. We're talking about folks like Ty Cobb, Cy Young, Shoeless Joe Jackson. It was an amazing year in baseball, 1908. So if you're interested in that, that's again in the Henry Flagler Museum's Whitehall series on sports legends of the Gilded Age. Sunday, February 22nd, beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, noon Pacific, and 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we'll have a talk by Susan St. Singh on The Wonder Crew, the untold story of a coach, Navy rowing, and Olympic immortality. This was a class, this is a team from Annapolis, a rowing team that achieved victory against illustrious Ivy League teams and broke the class barrier in a sport dominated by the privileged. Made it all the way to the Olympics. Then on Tuesday, February 24th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, noon Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we're going to have a session on OPAL tips for moderators. So if you have been, want to be, plan to be an OPAL moderator session, this one's for you. We'll talk about some of the new features of the software that powers OPAL. The current version is 7.95. Features like desktop sharing, video over IP, a rate this meeting feature, and more. We'll also review some of the long-standing functionality of the OPAL software, such as the document center and the whiteboard and things like that. Everybody's welcome to attend. Friday, February 27th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, noon Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We're going to be talking about digital archive search and discovery, the Great Experiment, the Pullman Manufacturing Town, presented by Andrew Bullen from the Illinois State Library. If you don't know anything about these planned manufacturing towns that sprung up in England, Germany, and the U.S. In the 19th century, as a way to sort of provide the best housing and educational opportunities and working conditions for this new manufacturing class. It's a fascinating period in history. George Pullman was participating in this, and the town of Pullman grew up near Chicago. And Andrew Bullen will be talking about the town and the experiment. Then on Sunday, March 1st, I'll throw this in even though it's into March, but it's the fifth and final lecture in the Whitehall Lecture Series about sports legends of the Gilded Age. It'll be about golf's golden age, the legendary players of the 10s and 20s, a talk by Dr. Rand Jarris. So we're talking about folks like players like Bob Jones, Gene Sarazen, Walter Hagen, and Glenna Collett. Please join us for that. Again, Sunday, March 1st, 3 Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, and Pacific. We have more things coming up in February, more things planned, so watch the OPAL schedule, the master schedule at www.opal-online.org. Also, if you can't attend these things live in person, live online, we're going to try to record and archive all these things, so eventually they'll make it into the OPAL archive, and you can view them again or view them for the first time at your leisure as recordings. So that's it for February. It's going to be a great day, great month, and hope you have a great week. Thanks much.